Dust the color of scorched bone drifted across the valley floor, caught in the slow churn of a dead wind. From a high ridge overlooking the encampment, Commander Uthel narrowed his 6 luminous eyes, filtering through 3 visual spectrums at once. The terrain below resembled a broken graveyard. Twisted rock formations, shattered basalt arches, and black glass spires jutting from the ground like claws. A fitting theater for a war the Galactic Coalition had long claimed was already won. "Another Earth unit just arrived via orbital drop," announced Sergeant Kroll, stepping beside him. His Rixer exosuit hissed softly with every movement, servo motors compensating for his species' heavy bulk. "A sniper. Human. Just one." Uthel grunted, a low vibration through his double-layered throat. "A single infantryman? From Earth's primitive militias?" "Not militia. A specialist. American designation." "Of course," Uthel said dryly, folding his upper arms behind his back. "The Terrans do love their ceremony." Behind them, the Coalition war camp was a hive of mechanical motion. Tall, insectal mechs lumber between defense turrets. Drones buzz in swarms overhead, their AIs syncing with orbital satellites. Elite units from 12 species ran field drills in coordinated units. Fluid, practiced, lethal. But Earth's contribution? One man with a rifle, Lieutenant Velrax, whose cybernetic limbs gleamed obsidian blue in the harsh sun, scoffed. "Let me guess, kinetic weaponry. Bolt action. They'll want to plug it into our net for targeting assist." Kroll laughed, a sound like metal being shredded. "The last sniper we had used phased optics, auto-compensating rangefinders, neural targeting, and still couldn't hit a cloaked Vrac scout." "They won't stop sending them," Velrax muttered. "They think their humans are special." Uthel didn't answer. His minds, all 3 of them, were occupied by the intelligence reports glowing on his ocular feed. Vrac's forces had begun adapting again. Their cloaking tech was evolving, faster than expected. The last Coalition platoon sent into the western ridges had been wiped out in 43 seconds. No survivors, not even debris. He turned away from the ridge, motioning toward the command center. "Let's meet our Terran. Then we'll decide where to bury him." The Central Operations Dome stood on an elevated platform of alloyed steel and anchored force fields. Inside, light bent unnaturally around the curved walls, adapting to each officer's preferred spectrum. Uthel adjusted the ambient environment to accommodate the humans' biological limits. They didn't need to wait long. Jack Dalton stepped through the reinforced doorway without ceremony or guard. He wore matte fatigues patterned in dull earth tones, a contrast to the sleek composite armor favored by most Coalition forces. His rifle, long, lean, and disturbingly non-digital, rested across his shoulder like a sleeping serpent. He looked normal, average, human. Velrax gave a low whistle. "You left your AI rig in orbit, Terran?" Dalton didn't answer. Kroll stepped closer, eyeing the rifle. No scope uplink. No predictive calibration. How do you even see with that thing? Still no reply. Dalton's eyes moved slowly around the room, not unfocused, but deliberate, reading exits, evaluating lines of sight, mapping threats. Uthel stepped forward. "Sergeant Dalton, Earth Command claims you've achieved over 300 confirmed kills across terrestrial and exoplanetary campaigns. You're a relic of obsolete warfare. We no longer use marksmen. We use targeting networks." Dalton met Uthel's gaze. Networks get hacked. It wasn't arrogance, just fact. His voice was quiet, level, but not submissive. Uthel couldn't detect even the faintest signal of cybernetic enhancement. No implants, no link signature. He was flesh and blood in a war of circuits. "Your assignment is the Hellspire range," Uthel said. "Recon and suppression. You'll be alone." Dalton nodded once. "That's how it works." Velrax folded his arms, expression sour. "We don't need a sniper. We need someone who can see through cloaking fields, penetrate adaptive shielding, coordinate with orbital AI, and not miss when it counts." Dalton walked past him, unslinging his rifle with practiced ease. He set it on the nearest table. It was beautiful in its simplicity. Long-barreled, coil-stabilized, chamber for a slug almost no other species used anymore. One shot, one kill. At a time when other armies favored saturation and swarm tactics, this weapon was a fossil. I don't need to see the cloaks, Dalton said, examining a portable terrain map on the wall. I just need to know where they'll be. And you know that, how? Crow asked, tilting his head mockingly. Dalton didn't answer. He traced a ridge line on the map with one callous finger. They'll come through here. For hours. There's thermal bleed on the slope. Natural venting. They'll think it hides their signatures. Berthel studied the map. There was a geothermal vent system there. But none of their analysis teams had predicted a tactical advantage. You're basing that on what? Velrax demanded. Dalton glanced at him. Patterns. Behavior. It's not tech. It's animal. They want line of sight, forward cover, and exit vectors. Crow let out another of his jagged laughs. So now the war's about hunches? Dalton picked up his rifle, checked the chamber, and began walking toward the exit. As he passed, he said, No, it's about not waiting until your friends are already dead. Berthel watched him go, then turned to the others. Velrax scoffed. I give him 2 days. 2 hours, Crow muttered. He'll be plasma vapor before sunset. Berthel didn't speak. His eyes lingered on the spot where the human had stood, then drifted back to the terrain map. The soldier had named a precise location. Not a guess, a prediction. No tech, no uplink, just instinct. He tapped the coordinates into the tracking grid. A marker lit up on the ridge. Monitor that position. Berthel ordered quietly. Live feed. Full spectrum. I want to see what the Terran sees. As they walked out, Velrax grumbled. What's there to see? A human with a toy gun watching rocks. But Berthel wasn't so sure, because in the old wars, before satellites, before AI, before precision orbitals, there had been stories. Stories of Earth soldiers lying in dust for days, still as death, waiting for one moment, one breath. And when that moment came, it ended everything. Berthel had once dismissed such legends. Now, he wasn't certain they were just stories. And something told him this sniper wasn't here to watch rocks. He was waiting for a target. The ridge was silent but alive. Jack Dalton lay prone, wrapped in adaptive mesh, its color-shifting threads mimicking the scorched reds and dusky browns of the alien terrain. His heartbeat was slow, deliberate, more meditation than biology. Through the scope of his rifle, an unassuming tool by coalition standards, but fine-tuned to the whims of gravity and breath, he watched. Nothing moved. Not yet. The Hellspire range stretched out below like the spine of some ancient beast. Wind slithered through jagged formations, carrying whispers of minerals and ozone. Heat shimmered upward in lazy waves, distorting depth and distance. But Jack's eyes, human eyes, were tuned to chaos in ways no sensor net ever could be. He didn't need perfect clarity. He needed rhythm. And rhythm revealed weakness. The rifle, custom-built and intimately familiar, was nestled into his shoulder. It had no name, no AI, no synthetic memory. It didn't need one. A weapon only had to do one thing. And Dalton knew exactly when it would be time. 30 hours had passed since he deployed to this position. 30 hours without movement, without sound, without speaking. He consumed half a ration bar and precisely 16 ounces of water. The rest was stored in his blood. The patience that unnerved his alien counterparts wasn't tactical. It was instinctual, predatory. They always moved eventually. He spotted the first shimmer at dawn. It was subtle, an unnatural flutter in the heat mirage, a silhouette too smooth in the chaos of stone. He didn't shift his body, just his eyes. A second flicker followed, then a third, scattered across a 20-meter spread. Cloaked rack scouts. 6, maybe 8. Their outlines were built to evade satellites and AI detection. Light warping armor, bioadaptive camouflage, internal temperature regulation. They were ghost machines. But not to him. They moved in classic sweep formation, slow, staggered, confident. Their leader, slightly taller and more heavily plated, motioned toward a rock outcropping less than 40 meters from where Jack lay buried in silence. He counted their steps, tracked their breathing patterns. predicted lines of retreat. He didn't look at them. He looked past them. His kill zone wasn't where they stood. It was where they'd be 5 seconds after they believed they were safe. He didn't flinch when the shot came. The sound was like the snap of a whip filtered through thunder, sudden and final. The lead scout's head jerked sideways, a fist-sized exit wound spraying translucent blood across the stone. The others froze. The second shot came before they screamed. A side skulker, shifting toward cover, crumpled mid-step, spinal column severed. The third dropped trying to climb a formation. By the time the fourth died, 2 had bolted, erratic, panicked, zigzagging through the rocks. But Jack already had them patterned. Their fear made them predictable. 5, 6. The last one didn't run. He stood, visibly trembling, plasma, rifle raised in shaky defiance. His voice, a garbled, clicking growl, echoed from a throat never meant to speak Earth's languages. Dalton watched him, one eye behind the scope, one finger steady on the trigger. He didn't pull. The Vrax soldier lowered the rifle. Jack fired anyway. Later, from a high-altitude drone, Coalition Command reviewed the footage. 8 confirmed kills. No alert, no warning, no request for assistance. Just 8 enemy bodies, spaced with mechanical precision across an open field. Those shots were impossible, Velrax muttered, arms folded, glaring at the playback. Even with a neural rig, you need predictive telemetry to compensate for Vrax shielding. He shouldn't have seen them. He didn't need to, Rathel replied, watching silently. He anticipated them. Still luck, Kroll grunted. A primitive's luck. Rathel didn't argue, but his secondary thoughts were restless. He accessed the field logs from the nearest Coalition recon squad. They'd passed through that same ravine an hour earlier, completely unaware of the approaching scouts. Their own detection systems had picked up nothing, but Dalton had been waiting. The kill shots were too clean for coincidence. Each impact had struck between armor plates, throat, temple, lower spine. He hadn't just fired. He'd hunted. That was what unsettled Rathel most. The human hadn't used superiority of firepower or advanced positioning. He hadn't outgunned the Vrax. He'd outthought them. Back on the ridge, Jack disassembled his rifle with methodical ease, checking the magnetic coils, replacing the energy cell with a fresh one from his chest rig. There was no celebration, no self-congratulation. He simply logged the time, adjusted for drift, and began recalibrating for distance to the next ridgeline. A soft tone pinged from his wristcom, an encrypted direct line from command. The message was brief. Report status. He tapped a single word in reply. Clear. There was no return message. That was fine. He didn't need one. As the second sun crested the jagged horizon, casting the valley in strange dual shadows, Jack scanned the horizon again. His eyes, bloodshot from dry air and sleepless hours, never blinked as he reacquired his next firing lane. A predator didn't sleep. Not when the hunt was only beginning. Back at camp, Velrax stormed into Rathel's command chamber. This is a circus, he snapped. You're letting a throwback with an oversized toothpick dictate how we engage the enemy. Am I? Rathel asked without looking up. Velrax threw a report onto the table. He's not even synced to the satellite grid. He won't submit predictive pathing. He refuses neural feedback. This isn't how we fight. Maybe, Rathel murmured. It's how we survive? Velrax snorted. You said it yourself, Rathel added. They're adapting. Faster than our systems can. Faster than we can. Maybe the solution isn't smarter tech. Maybe it's older instincts. You're gambling the lives of this entire battalion on a hunch. No, Rathel said, eyes fixed on the live feed of the ridge. He is. Outside, the wind howled again, scattering the scent of alien blood into the cold. The silence of the canyon broke like glass. It started with static on the open coalition channels, garbled voices, clipped commands, sudden spikes of electromagnetic interference. Then came the scream of overloaded comms relays, sharp enough to send some species into convulsions. Before any response could be formed, the first explosion erupted along the western perimeter, white-hot and surgical. The Vrax weren't scouting anymore. They were hunting. Coalition soldiers scattered prepared positions as sirens wailed through the camp. Drones spun to life, launching into the ash-blown sky. Mets stomped into formation. The base's defense turrets tracked the horizon, searching for movement, heat, sound, anything to mark a target. Nothing came. Then 3 sentries simply dropped where they stood. No blasts, no impact trails, just 3 trained operatives, standing behind cover, dead before their sensors could register threat. Rathel stood in the command center, watching the live feed in multiple spectrums. Where are the shooters? They're not showing on infrared, UV magnetics, nothing, replied the sensor officer, a thin-limbed Jakari. It's like the shots came from nowhere. Velrax finished grimly. Then a 4th coalition soldier was cut down. A headshot. Clean. Precise. Kroll stepped forward. We've been outmaneuvered. Rathel tapped a control node and overlaid the field map. They're coordinating sniper teams, but they shouldn't have range from outside the ridgeline, and they shouldn't be able to bypass our AI filters. A 5th death. No shot detected. No trail. Velrax swore in his native tongue. They're using light displacement fields, same as their cloakers, but scaled up, portable displacement projectors. We'll lose this base in 10 minutes, Kroll said. No, Rathel murmured, narrowing his eyes. They're not trying to overrun us. They're drawing us into exposure. Velrax turned toward him. And what's your brilliant counter? Rathel stared at the live kill feed. We let the Terran answer. Miles away, Jack lay prone behind a sand-scarred bluff. The air around him shimmered with static heat and shifting dust. His body didn't move. Not a twitch. Only his right eye shifted, slow and deliberate, behind the ancient scope. He'd been tracking the flickers for 20 minutes. They were clever. Their cloaks bled into the background radiation, scrambling most digital tracking. But Dalton didn't use algorithms. He used wind patterns, trajectory math, the behavior of prey under pressure. He could feel their hesitation. That was the trick of it. Every sniper left an echo. Not on the scope, on the field. Pressure changed when you were hunted. Air tightened. Motion lost confidence. Even cloaked, even silent, these Vrax marksmen were still alive. And being alive meant making mistakes. The first shot he took wasn't flashy. The target wasn't even visible. Just a faint bend of shadow where one shouldn't be. Less than half a centimeter's difference between rock and heat distortion. The Vrax sniper collapsed in a puff of static. Jack adjusted 0. Reacquired. Waited. The second flicker tried to move. A mistake. He dropped before his foot hit the next ledge. In the Coalition Command Center, red shifted to green. Sniper Team 2 neutralized. Rathel confirmed, voice low. We're back to parity. Velrax looked at the updated map. 1 man just cleared a team we couldn't even see. 2 men would have made noise, Kroll muttered. 3 more enemy signatures pinged in the ravine. They were repositioning. Fast. Jack tracked them as they moved in coordinated bursts, using terrain and mirage. Smart tactics. Standard doctrine for Vrax elite. But the ridgeline betrayed them. Jack had already accounted for the shadows. He'd zeroed those locations hours ago, just in case. He didn't shoot immediately. He waited for the rhythm. Breathe in. Breathe out. Let them think they were clever. First shot, upper chest cavity. Second, moving shot through shoulder plate. Third, through cover. It was a lucky guess. If you didn't know what hesitation looked like. The last target dropped. Back at the command center, the feed went quiet. A minute passed. Then 2. Enemy retreat confirmed, said the Jakari. Finally, they're pulling out a canyon. Velrax leaned on the console, staring at the data. How many? 9 confirmed enemy dead, Rathel replied. None escaped visual confirmation. The rest retreated before they could breach. Retreated from 1 human. Retreated, Rathel repeated. In the field, Jack rose to 1 knee. His joints ached, sweat pooling beneath his armor. His rifle's barrel steamed gently in the cooling wind. He looked out across the terrain, watching the last of the flickers vanish behind distant outcrops. He didn't smile, just rolled his neck, slow and stiff. and checked the chamber. Still smooth. Still clean. He didn't speak when the encrypted ping came again. Casualties stabilized. Return to base. He didn't answer. He scanned the area once more. Something was missing. A note out of tune. The Vraks didn't withdraw easily. They were calculating. Every retreat was a feint, which meant they weren't finished. Back in the Coalition Command Center, Velrax turned away from the consoles. We have to recalibrate strategy. The Vraks are adapting faster than we anticipated. No, Rathel said, still staring at the feed. Velrax frowned. What then? They're afraid, Rathel replied. They tried to hunt, and something hunted back. Velrax let out a dry chuckle. So what? The Terran's a ghost story now. No, Rathel said. He's a new variable. Then what's your recommendation? Rathel didn't look up. We let the Vraks keep guessing. Let the myth build. A human without tech, without support, killing them one by one in silence. Velrax hesitated. You think that scares them? I know it does. Far out on the edge of the range, Jack stood alone as the sun dipped behind the stone. His silhouette vanished into the dark. No movement, no sound, just breath, and the waiting.